It's another massive week on the recruiting trail for Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs because they have some of their top targets across the country coming to Athens starting today on Tuesday. That's what I'm going to talk about in today's video. I've got news and notes on a bunch of different prospects. Of course, you can read all of it over on Dawg Post. There's a lot on the site that I cannot share with you on YouTube, so I want to make sure y'all are heading over to dawgpost.com for the latest team and recruiting news, because we've got a bunch of stories over on the website and a lot of them are free, so make sure you're checking that out. But I did want to come on here and share you the latest on which top targets are coming to Athens this week. And Tuesday, as you're watching this, it is a big day. They've got four-star running back Derek Cooper back in town. He's the guy who was a Georgia commitment early in his recruitment for maybe a few hours or so, quick cup of coffee before he opened things up. And he's still a major Georgia target, one of the best pure athletes in the country. He will be in town today, Wednesday, and Thursday, which is going to be his birthday. So a 3-day visit to Athens. Really big deal. Obviously, Georgia needs to take two of the best running backs in the country, and Derek Cooper is a guy they've had high on their board for a long time. He's really high on Georgia. Miami is a team very much involved. Alabama, Florida State, a lot of those teams in the South. There's a lot of programs that don't want him to leave the state of Florida. He's out of Chaminade Prep in South Florida, so Miami will be in the mix the entire way. But Georgia is a team that, again, he has liked for a long time. He and his family will be back in town for 3 days checking out Georgia in their spring practice. So this is a big deal. If you don't know who he is, you can read, of course, all about him over on Dawg Post. But just a quick little note, he's the number 3 running back prospect in the country, number 32 overall. Okay, so this is an elite prospect, 6'1", 190, does a little bit of everything. He rushed for 905 yards, 13 touchdowns last year. Also played defense, had 46 tackles, 10 tackles for a loss, 4 sacks, 1 interception, 2 forced fumbles, 3 fumble recoveries, and 2 blocked punts. So the kid can do it all. He is the real deal and a major Georgia target. So he's going to be in town starting today, and he'll be in Athens through Thursday. Definitely got to keep an eye on, as is 5-star cornerback Jordan Edmonds. He's an in-state kid out of Sprayberry High School in Marietta, a guy who has shot up the rankings, one of the best players in the country now. He's ranked as the number 17 overall prospect in the country, the number 2 cornerback. I'll talk about the number 1 cornerback in just a little bit, because he was in Athens this past weekend, gave me some great quotes. Of course, you can read all about that and more on Dawg Post. But Jordan Edmonds is a long, athletic defensive back who can play wide receiver as well, or at least he did at Sprayberry. Alabama's the team in front right now from what I'm hearing. But Georgia's got a chance to, gain some momentum and make up some ground on the Tide on Wednesday and Thursday. That's when he told me he will be in town. So Wednesday and Thursday, the Dogs will have one of the best prospects in the country who is an in-state kid in town for a big visit. So again, he's 6'3", just under 6'3", about 175 pounds. Terrific ball skills. He caught 35 passes for Sprayberry last fall for 670 yards and 4 touchdowns. Was a lockdown defender. Now, the quarterbacks didn't throw his way very often, but he made 35 tackles and deflected 3 passes. He's the 2nd ranked prospect in the state, so a big deal. Georgia's got some ground to make up here, but they're going to do everything they can to gain some momentum with, again, the number 2 cornerback in the country, number 2 prospect in the state, number 17 overall in-state kid. You can't let those guys go to Alabama, right? It's not the Nick Saban Alabama Crimson Tide anymore. They've got a new staff, and Kirby can't let these elite defensive backs keep going to Tuscaloosa. I say keep. There's not really a ton, at least lately, but Jordan Edmonds definitely got to keep an eye on that. I think they trail Alabama and maybe another school or two. For more on that, go to Dawg Post. Now, one of their current commitments, 4-star Jontavius Wyman out of Jonesboro, he'll be back in town. He's got a lot of other programs recruiting him. Miami, Nebraska, who do I have here? Southern Cal, just to name a few. He's going to take his official visit. So Georgia needs to keep recruiting him like he's uncommitted. While he's still on the commit list, though, was outstanding as a sophomore, did a little bit of everything, picked off like 5 or 6 passes Again, quarterbacks didn't necessarily throw his way much as a junior last year, but he's a guy who lined up on offense, wide receiver, running back, special teams, defensive back. He's a do-it-all athlete, made 32 tackles, still 2 interceptions on defense with 1 forced fumble. On offense, he caught 34 passes for 506 yards and 7 touchdowns with another punt return touchdown. An easy 4-star, probably a top 20, top 25 prospect in the state, according to me. I didn't look up where he was on all the other outlets. Probably should have, but it doesn't matter. This kid is a solid 4-star. He's, kind of lean. He's just 6 foot, 175 pounds, but he is electric with the football. Georgia has him committed to play in the secondary, but he'll be on campus today, Tuesday, as you're watching this. So another really important visit, in my opinion, and another in-state guy. Now, Tuesday, which is still today, Craig Dandridge is going to be in town. He is a 4-star wide receiver out of Cambridge High School in Alpharetta or Milton, whatever you want to call it. I think it's pretty much right in between the two towns, which is all kind of the same area. But he went off last year for the Cambridge Bears, a program on the rise. Has been kind of dormant for a while. They've got that new coaching staff that came from Walton last year. They were outstanding, especially on offense. They should be a really, really good team. But Dandridge is one of the fastest rising wide receivers in the state and across the South. I gave him a big boost in the 2026 rankings. He hauled in 58 passes for 1,443 yards and 14 touchdowns last year for Cambridge. 6'1", 175, so not the biggest, not the fastest, but he's a ball player. He is a natural receiver with great hands, can elude defenders after the catch. He brings above average speed. I mean, the kid can run. He's just not a track star Arian Smith type, but he does have good size and he runs well, but he's got a feel for the game, a feel for the position, can get open, can secure the ball, and get upfield. So he's a guy whose recruitment really took off this winter. He got a bunch of different offers coming his way, including one from Georgia. And he's got a lot of other visits set up, but I do think Georgia sits in a nice spot for him. And he's a guy who I think will be a 4-star prospect by the end of his recruitment. So over the next few months, I think you'll see other outlets start to move him up their rankings. I already did, but I'm sure everyone else will do the same. He's becoming a big deal, and I think he's an in-state wide receiver that Georgia fans need to keep an eye on. So just a quick refresher, right? Elite running back athlete Derek Cooper will be in town today through Thursday for a multi-day visit. Jordan Edmonds, a 5-star defensive back, cornerback, athlete out of Sprayberry High School in Cobb County. He will be in town Wednesday and Thursday. Jontavius Wyman, a 4-star defensive back from Jonesboro, will be in town today. And Craig Dandridge, wide receiver out of Cambridge, will be in town today. All of those kids have a Georgia offer or is committed to Georgia, as in the case with Jontavius Wyman. But they're not the only prospects coming to town this week and this weekend. We've got more stories coming up because Saturday there's going to be some big-time visitors as well coming to town to check out Georgia's. I think they've got a scrimmage on Saturday, so more prospects will be in town, including a 2027 quarterback who already has a Georgia offer. Might be the best quarterback in Georgia for that 27 class. He'll be in town. Definitely a guy that Georgia fans need to keep an eye on. Okay, so let's talk about recent visitors, right? Brandon Arrington, the #1 cornerback prospect in the country, the number 12 overall prospect in the country from California, was in town over the weekend. Really, really big deal. Georgia's got some ground, to make up there. I believe Texas A&M, USC, Oregon, Alabama. Those are 4 schools that I'm hearing the most about. So it was a big deal to get him on campus for a big unofficial visit. Here's what he had to say about his recent Georgia visit. He said, "I learned a lot about how Georgia runs their defense. My biggest takeaway from the visit was watching how Coach Smart runs practice. He's all on his players 24/7, especially on the defensive side of the ball, as he's also a defensive back, former defensive back, and a former player there." Of course, y'all watching this, y'all know all about this, but these recruits may not, so they learn a lot, and a lot of them, I think, are really surprised when they find out that Kirby Smart used to be a playmaking safety and defensive back for the Georgia Bulldogs in the 90s. Because right now he doesn't look like a former player, but he was. Picked off a lot of passes, and I think these recruits, especially ones in the secondary, are surprised by that, but they're not surprised when they watch him coach and they watch him out there in practice, coaching these guys up and paying close attention to the defensive backs. But here's the big quote. He said, "It would be great to be part of their program, and I could see myself playing for Georgia. And I followed that up with, okay, well, surely you've scheduled an official visit. And he said, no, not yet. So that was a little surprising. But he does have a good relationship with Coach Dante Williams. But this kid is elite. He runs a 10.27 in the 100-meter at just under 6'3" and 180 pounds. So he's got size, he's got length, and the kid can absolutely fly. Claims a 4.32 in the 40. I mean, if that's a real time, and you throw in his frame and his length and his ball skills, I mean, it's easy to see why he's the number one cornerback in the country. Also played some wide receiver last year out in California. Caught 31 passes for 527 yards, 5 touchdowns. Also made 26 tackles on defense with 1 interception, 2 forced fumbles, and 7 pass breakups. Again, Georgia's got some ground to make up here, but number one cornerback, number 12 prospect in the country says, hey, I could definitely see myself playing for Georgia. So just a few notes there. So it's still a lot going on, right? Recruiting still matters, and a 5-star Georgia fan is going to keep up and still follow recruiting. You got to know who the incoming Dogs are, or possible Georgia Bulldogs are. And this channel is where you learn the latest, right? This is where you become a 5-star Georgia fan. All the 5-star Georgia fans, however, are already on Dawg Post. Again, you can read all about this and more over on the website. That's where we want to push y'all. Really appreciate y'all for watching. Sign up to our free newsletter where you can get all of these stories emailed to you just about every day. It's free to sign up. Make sure you're doing that. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you learned something. And I'll see you over on Dawg Post.